Hey everybody, hope this finds you doing well. This is Danelle here at Networkchain. Let's go ahead and jump right into the cryptocurrency market update. As you can see, Bitcoin is currently trading above $111,000. It's up about 2% over the past week. It's definitely still in that range. We'll get to the technical analysis or semi-technical analysis in a moment. Ethereum is currently trading at $4,291. It's actually down nearly 4% over the past week. XRP is up about the same as Bitcoin, almost 2% at $2.85. You have BNB about flat, Solana about flat as well, and Dogecoin up nearly 3%, or a little over 3%, I should say, trading at 22 cents over the past week. Then we have Tron and Cardano rounding out the top 10, and that's basically flat for the most part. It's trading at around 83 cents. So if we take a look at the technicals when it comes to Bitcoin, you can see here on the daily chart over the past year, Bitcoin is basically still up about 100% from where it was a year ago. And we see here that it's still kind of in this range, and we're still basically between 100 and all-time highs of around 123,000. So we're kind of in this range. We've been going in this range for the last several months, basically since the lows of the year in April around the tariff situation. And so now we're seeing that Bitcoin is steadily staying, at least right now, above $100,000. Is it possible that it can come back down and test this range? Of course, absolutely. As you can see here, just in the past year, earlier in the year when we had highs in November of 2024, and then we went all the way down, as you can see. Part of that having to do with the Black Swan event in April, but even before then, going down to March, it went from above $108,000 all the way down to below $80,000 in the high 70,000 range within 4 or 5 months. So it's definitely possible. Bitcoin, as you know, the name of the game is volatility. So you definitely want to make sure that you stay on top of what's going on with Bitcoin. If you do choose to invest, you can either just buy and hold, or if you do choose to trade, you definitely want to make sure that you stay on top of really what's going on daily with regards to Bitcoin and the macroeconomic environment, because it definitely can change how Bitcoin moves. And we know that in the next couple of weeks, the Federal Reserve is going to be making a decision as to whether or not it's basically going to turn around its monetary policy. It had stopped raising rates pretty much all of the past year, and now we're seeing that there's a possibility due to some other macroeconomic factors. We've talked about inflation, we've talked about jobs, and how those are some of the factors that they use to determine whether or not they're going to change their monetary policy. And so there's a possibility, and odds are higher now, that they could begin to cut the federal funds rate at least by 25 basis points potentially in the next couple of weeks. I believe that date is going to be September 17th when we'll find out about that. So that definitely is a date that we want to keep our eye on, and definitely stay close watch as to what Bitcoin does around that time frame. As we see and look at the Bitcoin monthly returns, you can see here that, sorry, you can't see the dates, but you can see 2025, 2024. Over the last several years, we've seen that September has actually been a pretty good month, and it possibly could be that way again because of the fact that the federal funds rate could be going down in the next couple of weeks, and the news of that definitely could potentially cause risk on assets to go up. So it still is an unknown at this point, but we do know that generally speaking, when we look at Bitcoin over the last, let's say, 8 to 12 years, that September has generally been a down month. Basically, since 2017, it has been down 6 out of the last 7 years. We'll see what happens this year in September. You never know, but history, you can use it as an indicator of what potentially could happen, but obviously it doesn't show you exactly what's going to happen in the future. So we just want to make sure that we keep that in mind. So if we want to look at what's going on currently, just generally in the overall crypto landscape, we've been talking a lot about Ethereum lately, with the Ethereum Treasury companies really starting to do quite well. They are definitely having a bit of a pullback now over the last couple of weeks, partly due to the seasonality of crypto and crypto investing and trading, but we're also seeing that there's still movement going on, generally speaking, when it comes to cryptocurrency and the broader market and coming into traditional finance. So, Solana, which is also a smart contract platform similar to Ethereum, and it also is competing basically with Ethereum. It's considered to be faster than Ethereum, a little bit more scalable than Ethereum, but we're still waiting to see how much Wall Street is going to invest in Ethereum. We have seen some investment from Wall Street in Solana. We're seeing that the Solana ETF potentially could be coming, if not later this year, probably next year. So we are looking to see what else is going to be burgeoning out of the cryptocurrency market, especially when it comes to traditional finance and Wall Street. So we're seeing here that Solana, a treasury company named Sol Strategies, they're a Canadian based firm. They started building their Solana Treasury over the last couple of years, and they are now going to be listed on the Nasdaq. So you see here that the ticker is going to be STKE, and they should start trading on September 9th. There's obviously, several regulatory filings that need to be made and some other minutia that they need to get through when it comes to the regulation in order to be able to actually be listed on the Nasdaq. But it looks like that should be happening sometime this week. So definitely something to keep an eye on, as we see that Ethereum and the Ethereum ETFs have definitely started to do really well and pick up steam over the past several months. And now we're seeing that a Solana treasury company is now going to be traded on the open market on the Nasdaq exchange. So we'll definitely see if there's going to be any more Solana treasuries or even any other cryptocurrency treasuries. People are also looking forward to potentially seeing an XRP ETF come out soon, and maybe even more XRP treasuries. So we're seeing that crypto is continuing to grow and it's continuing to kind of infiltrate the traditional finance markets. It's obviously going to take some time, but we're definitely seeing the writing on the wall as in terms of what's happening and how the United States and other countries around the world are really starting to embrace cryptocurrency. There's still obviously a long ways to go when it comes to coming up with the laws and the regulations that's going to really fully encompass crypto, so people have a better understanding of what their options are and what type of investments that they're getting into. But we definitely are seeing that the traditional finance system is definitely starting to embrace crypto, but we still have a long way to go. And as I talk of that, we learned that MicroStrategy, which is currently the top holder of Bitcoin, is currently no longer an option for the S&P 500, at least this last go round. So the S&P 500 recently had their announcement this past week, and they included Robinhood and App11, and MicroStrategy was in the running and it didn't make it this time into the S&P 500. Obviously, there's going to be other chances to get into the S&P 500, but as we see here, there's only 3 currently companies that are in the S&P 500 that have Bitcoin on the balance sheet. So once again, we still have a long ways to go, but we do see that there is interest, obviously, from some of the biggest companies in the world with Bitcoin. So we know that Tesla, for example, which is in the S&P 500, holds Bitcoin, one of the largest publicly traded companies, one of the largest holders of Bitcoin. We know that Tesla, Block, and then also Coinbase. Those are the 3 S&P 500 companies that currently have Bitcoin on the balance sheet. We definitely believe there will be more in 2026 and the years beyond, but obviously it's going to be a long process, and obviously over time, as Bitcoin continues to perform well and maybe doesn't have as much volatility as it used to over the last 16 years or so. Obviously, it's a much larger asset. So if we start to see a little bit more stability with Bitcoin in terms of not being as volatile, we may see the 4-year cycles change. Then we definitely could see more companies looking into buying and having Bitcoin on the balance sheet. Of course, continue to check us out here on YouTube as well as X and Instagram. We post there nearly every day, so thank you so much for checking us out on those platforms. Also, when it comes to El Salvador, which is the first country to make Bitcoin legal tender, it was 4 years ago on September 7th, and now we know that the IMF, through IMF pressure, investors, they no longer have Bitcoin as technically legal tender. They had to roll back some of the Bitcoin law that they had enacted in 2021. So now businesses do not have to accept Bitcoin. They can, but they do not have to accept Bitcoin. You can no longer use Bitcoin to pay for taxes. So Bitcoin Day there's, kind of mixed feelings about Bitcoin Day now from when they had made Bitcoin a legal tender. But back in 2001, El Salvador made the United States dollar their official currency, and due to the financial strife that the country had been going through for several decades, they now lean on the IMF to help them with regards to being able to manage debt. And so the IMF made them basically will pull back some of the clauses in that Bitcoin law in order to be able to take care of some other financial responsibilities. And so they still do hold over 6,000 Bitcoin. I don't believe they plan on selling that anytime soon. And it's currently valued at $700 million. They are no longer actively adding to their Bitcoin stash, but they definitely are being seen as absolutely a pioneer. The only other country currently that does accept Bitcoin as legal tender, or really now at this point, the only country that accepts Bitcoin as legal tender, is the Central African Republic, and it is the only African country that accepts Bitcoin as legal tender. And as of what we know now, they are the only one that accepts Bitcoin. So we will see if there will be other countries that down the line will make Bitcoin legal tender. Obviously, as I mentioned earlier, it's going to take some time, particularly when it comes to how Bitcoin is performing over the next several years. So it's still a long ways away in terms of seeing more sovereign nations potentially accept Bitcoin as legal tender, but we are at a great starting point. We're seeing some action now with regards to countries mining and buying Bitcoin to have on their balance sheet. So we know that this is something that potentially could be more and more prevalent down the line. But once again, we have to see where we go with the entire cryptocurrency market, but particularly with Bitcoin over the next couple of years. And of course, you can stay here on Networkchain and stay posted nearly every day on X as well as IG. And we just wanted to give you the basic rundown of what's kind of happening in the cryptocurrency market over the past week. As you can see, Bitcoin holding strong above 100,000. It's above 110,000 right now at the time of this recording. We thank you so much for watching. We hope you have a great week, and we look forward to connecting with you soon on the Networkchain. Take care. Bye-bye.